Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Skip Mason,
pastor, preacher, historian, author,
teacher, librarian, archivist, world traveler,
collector, family historian, avid reader, and creator of the popular Vanishing Black Atlanta Facebook page.
But a lot of folks who love history.
Most importantly,
he's our
dad who loves his family and who taught us the importance of our history and having important conversations.
Join him now for this episode of Conversations with Dr. Skip.
Well, good Sunday afternoon, my brothers and sisters. I greet you in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm delighted to come to you on this Sunday before Thanksgiving with this very special show. I'm blessed to have as my guests Bishop Adjei and Dr. Thembe Mafico. Bishop Adjei, of course, is the presiding prelate of the 11th Episcopal District, and he will come and give us an update of the great work that is going on in his district since he was elected the 68th bishop of our church. And we'll also have a conversation with Dr. Thembe Mafico, a biblical scholar from ITC, who takes people, preachers, and lay over to Africa and share and teach from the Bible the history of these important places. So you're in for a treat. Let me greet our senior bishop and Mrs. Reddick. Let me greet the College of Bishops and their spouses. Let me greet Bishop James B. Walker, Dr. Thomas Lewis Brown, who chairs the CIT committee, which this show falls up under. And let me greet our General Secretary of Communication and Information Technology, our CIO, Dr. Teresa Duhart. And I'm excited that on next Sunday at 6 p.m., I will join a distinguished panel of people who will be sharing with you regarding hybrid worship services. Yes, we are still doing hybrid services in this post-pandemic period. And the CIT Tech Talk will look at live streaming. The panelists will address Facebook and Restream, StreamYard, which I use often, Zoom platforms, and the licensing of recorded music. How do you continue to play music without getting your music snatched from Facebook or YouTube? I'm excited, and we hope that you'll tune in next Sunday at 6 p.m. through Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Let me also extend congratulations to our own Dr. Panay Woods, who was just recently named Planner of the Year. Shout out to Dr. Woods and the tremendous work that she is doing that has been recognized nationally and internationally. But I'm excited today that I get to have a conversation with Bishop Adjei. But before I bring him up in a previously recorded conversation, let me just share a couple of clips with you.
God, now we will begin to recognize and glorify Him. We will begin to declare His glory. We will begin to praise His glory. We will begin to reflect His glory. And we will begin to live His glory.
The Lord bless each and every one of you. The Lord protect you and your household. May your going in be protected by God. May you be sealed in the blood. May anyone who wish you dead, may that person die before you. May you give the testimony among the living. May you go out and shine like a star. May your children shine like stars. May you receive the blessings of your labor. In the name of Jesus, may the Lord bless you all the days of your life. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And let us just say amen.
Well, good afternoon, Bishop Adjei. It is a delight to see you and to have you here on my show and to have an opportunity to catch up with you since you were elected the 68th bishop of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, Dr. Skip, and I give God the glory for how far He has brought me.
Well, Bishop, just take us back for just a moment to that moment when you heard your name at the General Conference in Cincinnati and realized you had been elected bishop. What was that moment like for you?
It was exciting. It was overwhelming. It was a dream come true. And I was so much excited to the extent that I realized how the church folks really have so much respect for me and respect my ministry. And I just want to say that I was just overwhelmed and excited about the moment.
And so when you were announced, you didn't have very far to go to the stage because you were seated in the judicial section, which was right next to the stage. And so it is the tradition that they lift the bishop up to carry him, but you were a few steps away and you almost walked over to the stage. And I said, oh, we got to do a redo on this. We got to carry him from a distance to the stage, but you made it. And you are our consecrated bishop for the 11th Episcopal District. And so one of the reasons why I have invited you is to kind of get an update from you to see how your first 100 plus days have gone. Let me stop though before I ask you to tell us about that, and thank you and your beautiful wife and co-laborer in this ministry for the tremendous hospitality that you all showed me and my group when we were in Ghana. We got a chance to visit your church, and it was just a blessing. I could not imagine our trip getting off to a better start. So I just want to thank you personally and publicly, and your beautiful wife and pastor for the tremendous hospitality and the gifts.
Thank you, Skip. You know, the Ghanaian, it is often said that Ghanaians, we are noted for our hospitality, and hospitality is the hallmark of all Ghanaians. And we feel so proud sometimes when we have our own brothers and sisters from America coming to visit us. It normally used to be time of inspiration, times of excitement, times of knowing that we have brothers and sisters who really care for us. And so you cannot imagine, up to today, they're still talking about it. And thank you for visiting, making time to visit them.
Thank you. Bishop, so tell us, what have you been doing? What have you been up to? You've been traveling. Every time I look on Facebook, you're in an airport. You've been moving back and forth. So tell us about the last 100 plus days for you and where you've been and what you've been doing with the people of God that you've been charged to lead.
Well, Skip, just after the General Conference, when I came back to Ghana, we had the funeral of Bishop Mwete just around the corner. And so as the only African on the episcopacy, I deemed it fit to be around and to welcome my brothers and sisters who have come all the way from the United States to join the funeral. So I was at the funeral of Bishop Mwete, right from beginning to the end. And it was just a privilege to serve along with the senior bishop and Bishop Walker and the presiding prelate of the 10th district. It was just exciting. Bishop Karat was around, and we give God the glory that we were able to give a befitting funeral to our colleague who has departed. Just as I came back to Ghana, I had to plane to Rwanda. Rwanda is such a beautiful place to be, a country with very good economic stability, and people are law-abiding. And I was welcomed there in a special way. In fact, I had to travel from the capital, excuse me, of Rwanda to where we were going to meet. Basically, my was to visit, to have a view of what is in store for me. And as an African, the tradition is, if you have been sent to a new place, you need to go and identify with the people and let the people welcome you and tell them your reasons for coming. And I just wanted to fulfill that aspect of the African tradition. And so right from Kigali, we drove to Gisenyi, and such a wonderful place. And the people really welcomed me in Rwanda. I realized that we have good churches there, and the laws are so effective there that you cannot start a church if you don't have the right credentials or registration. And so I sort of try to emphasize that we need to really have all our churches that are capable, regularizing them so that we can be properly stationed in Rwanda. I saw Bishop Snodden's Cathedral, which was very, very appreciated. Bishop Carter's school that he built in Rwanda. However, I realized that the school is uncompleted, and so the government will not allow us to start. So my intention is to finish up with the school, and also looking at the economic environment, my intention is to station myself with an Episcopal residence in Rwanda. When I came back, I had to re-plane back to Uganda. Uganda is such a special place. I met the mission supervisor, Dungu. Dungu is a hard-working mission supervisor that we have there. We drove from Thembe to Busia. In fact, it took us almost 7 hours to get there. But when I got there the next day and I moved to the grounds that I was going to meet my people, it was just exciting. What really fascinates me more was to hear that people had to travel 2 days on road in order to come and see their bishop, their new bishop. They were not invited. I only wanted to meet the pastors and church leaders. But the church, the lay people traveled 2 days to come and see their new bishop. I felt very, very humbled that my colleague Africans would have that high respect for me and really coming to see me. By the grace of God, we had a very wonderful fellowship, a church fellowship, a church meeting. I left Uganda with a great deal of impression about our work, because we have 200 churches in Uganda, which is quite a large number. And some of the churches worship under trees. Some of them don't have a place of worship. And my intention is to see to it that we are able to finish up with those churches. I realized Bishop Carter built a church that they are regarding as their headquarters. It's not yet completed. And my intention is to get it completed so that it looks more of the headquarters that they want it to be. I came back and I went to Congo, DR Congo. DR Congo, I understand, is the fourth largest country in the world. And so it's such a large country. And much of our work is in DR Congo. I was seriously welcomed, very well welcomed, giving me a diplomatic immigration passage. And I didn't go through the normal formalities. I just went through to the VIP lounge, and I had my pastors waiting to welcome me. And they took me to my place of residence. The next day, I visited our church, where I intend to meet all our pastors and then the lay leaders of the conferences. We had to make sure that those who are coming from far, we try to give them transportation in order to be able to come in and then take the message back to the people there about their new bishop and what my vision is. I shared with him my vision, my concerns, and a little bit of the book of discipline to help them understand if I'm doing something, why I'm doing it. And so there is the need for me to explain the book of discipline, how we operate as bishop and the church. And I must be frank with you, that went down very well with them. They were very, very, very excited. And so I left Congo with much excitement because of the hospitality and the receptivity of my ministry. Mission Supervisor Congo was so excited about me and remarked that we got a spirit-filled bishop who is really coming to do a lot of exploit for us. For me, this has been humbling, this has been exciting in these 3 countries that I have visited. I have not been able to make any move yet because I needed to put certain things in place. As such, I don't have my travel documents ready to go out. And so I am a little bit held up, and my intention is to really start my conferences from next year as the calendar will show. Yes, so for the last 100 days, by His grace, I visited 3 of my countries, being Rwanda, being Congo, and then being Uganda. These are very good countries. And I have been to Nigeria as well.
Wow, Bishop, that is a lot of traveling, but I am certain, as you've already indicated, that the people were so blessed and happy to see you, to meet their new bishop, and to hear from you as it relates to the churches. Now, tell those who are watching, what are the other countries that you have that are a part of the 11th Episcopal District?
We have Kenya, we have Tanzania, we have Burundi, and we have Zambia, we have Zimbabwe, and we have South Africa. There are 9 countries in all.
My goodness. Now, have we expanded to Egypt?
I think Egypt is with Bishop Carter. Bishop Carter has taken over Egypt and Sudan.
And Sudan, right.
That is the relief.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I am sure of that. And so, Bishop, what would you say in your assessment is the most important need for your people that you are serving? What have you observed? What are you hearing? What do people need in order to fulfill the ministries that they have been charged with, that we in the United States may not be aware of or know?
It varies from country to country. Basically, when I was in Rwanda, I realized that one of their main aim is to be able to regularize themselves in order to be able to worship. And that is not freely done. You have to meet the obligation of putting the church site in place that is conducive for worship. Mm-hmm. It is then that the government can give you the certificate to start a church. And so my intention is to have those churches registered so that we can really be properly stationed in Rwanda. The other thing that I saw is the school that Bishop Carter built. Very beautiful edifice. But as I said earlier on, the country, the government will not let you start if you don't have all the facilities. And so we need to finish up with the louver blades for all the windows of the school. We need to have an office that the school authorities will be in, and a washroom facilities for the children. And then the church itself, we need to really have it completed in terms of cementing the floor. I have been blessed to receive some few amount from Bishop Snowton's wife, Elder Snowton, and my intention is to go there and then have the floor, parts of the floor that is not cemented, to be cemented. So in Rwanda, it is about registering the place for worship. It's about trying to complete the facility that we already have so that the government would give us that accreditation to start operating as a school. When I was in Uganda, it's a whole lot of needs. As I said earlier on, some of the churches are worshiping under tree. Now, just to construct a shed, to give them a shade that when rain falls, they can still continue to worship, it will cost me, that is what I am told, it will cost me $800 to just have a church in place. I was privileged to be at Hill Chapel in Plato, Texas. And they took an offering and it amounted to $800. And I told them, I'm going to complete one of the church that worship under trees. And so as many, if we have 200 churches, we have as many as 30 of the churches that are worshiping under trees. Can we have people to help them, give them a shade so that they can be worshiping even if it's raining? They can still be under the shade and worship the Lord. I realized that my mission supervisors all over the 11th, I need to really put them on stipend in order for them to be able to move about and do effective supervision. And that is the area that I seriously have to concentrate on, because if I am not there and I want them to perform, I need to put them mobile so that they can be able to move around and so that they will be able to give me results. When I was in Congo, we have so many schools in Congo. And the situation in Congo is not like in Uganda. The situation in Congo is not like in Rwanda. You can just have a place, as far as you can accommodate people, you just go ahead and start a school. And so we have schools that are not properly constructed. And so it needs to be completed. And my intention is to help finish up with some of those schools. I went to a school that was named after Bishop Snowton, and it's a vocational school where they learn how to sew. And in that school, as at the time I went, they had only 2 sewing machines. And so immediately I had to go to the market to buy 1 sewing machine to beef up so that we can have 3. If I had more money on me, I would have bought about 3 sewing machines for them. And I went to one of the schools. It was just uncompleted, and the children were schooling, having classes there. I must be frank with you, I worked. And we had to make money available for the place to be roofed. And so the needs vary from country to country. In Congo, we have one hospital that is being run by the church. And the hospital has all the workers that they should have, but the facilities are so poor. You get to the theater, it is just, you see where people are, operation is performed. It's just worrying. They don't have enough medications or drugs. And I was shown a place where in hospitals, they said a fevers unit. Someone has a peculiar ailment that he or she cannot be among the patients. So he or she has to be separated. And I look at where a patient is going to be placed. We need to really help that facility to be done. And so, as I said, it varies. The schools must be completed. They must have proper place of study. The churches, we need to build more churches. And in fact, I need to expand. Bishop Carter has done so much, and I really commend him for his missionary spirit. And we now have so many churches, but my intention is also to have more churches and to also fortify what we already have, to solidify that and to make sure that the CME Church moves from good to become a great church in the 11th.
Wow, I tell you, thank you for that that update and for letting us know the kind of needs that you have with the churches. You need money. Money will help to do a lot of the things that you have identified, and I pray that our church will be able to support you and the work of the 11th Episcopal District. Recently, as we prepare to wrap up, recently you and Bishop Helton were together in Ghana. I think it was for an annual conference, but tell us about that experience. There's this wonderful photo of the two of you extending a handshake, bringing the continent of Africa together, the 10th and 11th. Tell us about that experience for you. And of course, it was in Ghana, your home state, but welcoming the presiding prelate of Ghana and the time you all were together.
Yes, thank you very much, Skip. I really want to thank God for the church sending Bishop Helton to the 10th Episcopal District. Bishop Helton has demonstrated high level of priesthood and leadership. And my intention was, as Ghana is my home country, I need to let them know they have a new leader, and I am not the leader for that area. And so that was one of my aim of letting them see that their new leader, Bishop Helton, and I have a strong desire to work together. We're learning from each other and we're exchanging from each other. And the conference, I really took the conference as if it's my conference and gave him all the support that he needed. You know, I was acting as the mission supervisor, performing the work of the bishop in his absence. And so until the conference time for a new mission supervisor to be appointed, I am still the mission supervisor. So I had to really perform that role. And it worked so well with my bishop, Bishop Helton. And I had the privilege of inviting the General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, since CME is a member of the council. We had to invite him, and he came to meet with Bishop Helton and I, and Dr. Taylor, and our incoming new mission supervisor. We met at Marriott Hotel, and it was such a wonderful fellowship that we believe that our next coming, we arrange it in such a way that we can have maybe a visit to even the presidency to announce our presence in the country. At the conference itself, Bishop Helton was very magnanimous. I mean, he had to share certain responsibilities with me. Not that he cannot do it, but he felt that his colleague is with him, and he asked me to do certain things, and he also did what he had to do. In fact, we were all working together. And so that photograph you saw, the handshake, we were actually telling the people that we are together and this is how we're going to work together. We are not different. We are not in competition against one another, but we are going to work together. And so it is exactly what I said, that we resolved to work together, is exactly what we meant by taking that photograph. It was a good conference, and everybody remarked that we've had a good conference in one of the good conferences in recent years.
Wow, that is amazing. And I'm so glad, we're glad to see the two of you working together. And it was just a very powerful image and a symbol that we all have to come together and work. Well, Bishop, we are appreciative of you for your time this afternoon to share with us and to kind of update you. You have been busy. I'm exhausted listening to your schedule of travel back and forth and extensive travel, sometimes even flying and then having to drive 7 hours to get to a location. But it is what has been called and required of you, and you are the one to do it. Any closing thoughts, any final words that you want to share to the wonderful people, our CMEs across the connection who are watching and listening to you? If so, you have that opportunity.
I want to thank the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, the delegates in Cincinnati, for giving me that overwhelming support and vote in order to become a bishop of the church. My humble appeal is they should not leave me alone in Africa. They should give me all the support that I need in order to be able to perform. And trust me, whatever dime is raised, I would use it for what it is raised for. I seriously want to thank the College of Bishops, who have been tremendous in terms of inspiring us, helping us to know what we have to be doing and how we have to work together. Thanks to Senior Bishop Reddick for his mentorship that he gave me over the years and has brought me this far. I want to thank my wife for supporting me till date. I will never forget that 90 days fasting that we all did together before the election. And I always say that I am in to serve. I will serve my people. I will serve the CME till I die. And to God be the glory for what he has done. Thank to all CMEs. I am CME, and I will be a CME for the rest of my life. Thank you all for electing me.
Well, Bishop, we thank you and we pray God's blessings upon you and your wife and the wonderful people of the 11th Episcopal District. This has been another conversation with Dr. Skip Mason. We are honored to share with Bishop K. Lawson Adjei, the presiding prelate of the 11th Episcopal District. Bishop, be blessed and safe, and until we see each other again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, what a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Bishop Adjei. You have truly been busy, and you have blessed us with this update and the report of the work that you have done. And you reminded us of the importance of the CME Church's global expansion and the need to make sure that all of our churches throughout Africa are taken care of. I want to share this quick clip as a way of introducing our next guest.
When you talk of Jesse, we talk about Buffalo, a very strong person to see her. So, Kobe Jesse, be strong wherever you be and fight forward. Don't fight backwards.
This summer, I had the opportunity to travel back to Ghana with a group of about 35 people, including my two children, Jewel and Jadari, and I celebrated my 60th birthday in Ghana. Many, many years ago, I realized the importance of traveling abroad, learning other cultures, learning the history and traditions, and it has really enriched my life, and I'm excited every time I get an opportunity to go to Africa. I've been to Ethiopia, I've been to Liberia, Egypt several times, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, just, various countries throughout. And I'm excited to bring up my next guest, Dr. Thembe Mafico, along with two additional guests who will be joining him, who were recently on a trip to Egypt. And so I invited Dr. Mafico, Dr. Darrell, and Lei Fang, and Ms. Violet Meyer to tell us a little bit about the trip. And one of the persons who traveled with them to Egypt was my bishop, the presiding prelate of the 6th Episcopal District, of course, Bishop Thomas Lewis Brown and Dr. Louise Baker Brown. And so I'm going to bring my interview up with Dr. Mafico, and I hope that you'll hang on and watch it and enjoy that conversation. So delighted to have some very special guests with me on this afternoon to share about an amazing journey that they recently taken to Egypt. With an amazing scholar, intellectual, author, one of my former professors, preacher, pastor, and member of West Mitchell Street CME Church. And so let me bring them up now. I want to present to you Dr. Thembe Mafico, who is the founder of the Mafico Institute, among many other accolades. We have Dr. Darrell and Lei Fang. I hope I got that right. And we have Miss Violet Meyer. And these wonderful people have come to talk to us about a recent journey to Egypt, but also not only to share their experiences, but to talk about the importance of people traveling and journeying and experiencing other cultures and learning about wonderful traditions and those that are connected biblically. So let me say welcome to each of you to Conversations with Dr. Skip. Dr. Mafico, I'm so glad to have you on. And so let me begin with you. Tell us a little bit about the Mafico Institute. You've been taking groups to Africa for many years. And then tell us a little bit about this amazing trip this summer that even the presiding bishop of the 6th Episcopal Church, Bishop Thomas L. Brown and Dr. Louise Baker Brown, traveled to Egypt this summer. And from Egypt, Bishop Brown sent me pictures. That's how much he rubbed it in, that he was having such a picture of him hoisted on a camel. I said, just rub it in, Bishop, rub it in. But we'll welcome. And Dr. Mafico, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about the Institute and your travels to Africa.
Yeah, we started the Institute actually in 1994. And that is when I was teaching Old Testament. And students said, we learn about Egypt and about Greece and about Turkey, Syria. Why don't we go there and concretize what we learned? So I organized a group of 24 students, and we started in Syria, went on to Turkey, covered Jordan, Egypt, went on to Mount Sinai, and that so impacted those students. Even today, they are still doing dynamic things. Then I realized as we continued these trips year after year, sometimes 3, and in 2006 to 2010, I even organized 3 groups in a year, supported by the Cousins Foundations. It dawned on me also that these pastors, after they've gone overseas, they come back with such power, spirituality, self-identity, self-assurance. One even wrote me and said, I'm amazed. You taught us to say, preach for 15 minutes. I came and experimented on 15 minutes. I was amazed that many people said it was my best sermon yet. And another wrote and said, it is amazing that I'm now doing less and getting more results. What happens then is that people go overseas, they see other people do what they do, and they become so encouraged to realize that they can do that and do even more with the resources we have here in the States. Finally, what happens also is that as I was reading the Bible, chapter 1, God is working. Chapter 2, God is resting. Then I went to the New Testament and found that rest is such a key thing in worship of God. And we're not emphasizing that, we emphasize more work. And we don't realize there should be a balance between work and rest. That is when the Institute got born in 2018. And now it's picking up steam. And that's why we went to Egypt. And surprising enough, even when we were in Egypt, working so hard, we saw too much. And we are going to moderate that. But the people who went there, they will tell you, my friends are here to talk about it. We had such a good time. We were 25, if not 26. We bonded. And that is one of the things which happens on our trips. We become a team and feel for each other and with each other. So that is what happened in Egypt. We saw quite a lot. We saw the Giza pyramids, and we went on a cruise for 3 days, and it was quite a trip.
Well, I know it was. I've been to Egypt twice, but I've not been to Egypt with Dr. Thembe Mafico, and I know that's another whole level experience. And I noticed when you have taught Bible study or even have preached that you really emphasize this thing of rest, and I didn't realize where it had stemmed from, but you have been very consistent with preaching that. Well, let me talk to Dr. Fang for just a second. Did you get any rest while you were in Egypt? and tell us a little bit about your experience there. And Miss Maya, I'm going to ask you the same. And as I said, this is an informal conversation because we really want to talk about some of the shared experiences and some individual experiences that you had, and what was most eye-opening, what was a life-changing moment for you. So let's start with you, Dr. Fang. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to go. Was this your first trip, and that experience on this trip?
Thank you so much. So yes, this was my very first trip. Well, such a big trip, of course. I went to like little islands like Mexico. I myself am from Trinidad. So, I'm accustomed to going to some of the neighboring islands. This was my first time having an opportunity to visit a land that was so steeped in history, not just Black history, but also biblical history. And I had an opportunity through the Mafico Bible Institute to live that and experience the things that people in the Bible times experience. And how can I not? I also am a former classmate of Dr. Mafico, not classmate. He was my professor and still is my mentor. And Dr. Mafico always, as you stated, talked about rest, about being able to recognize when we are getting to a place of both physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual burnout. And I have to say that when it was time for me to go to Egypt, I was burned out in all of those areas. I needed a time of rejuvenation. I needed a time of restoration and relaxation. And what a more beautiful way to do that. Had an opportunity to collaborate and meet beautiful people as Miss Meyer is, and other individuals that we hung together, and was able to see sites that I never imagined I would be able to see, the pyramids and the Sphinx, but also spiritual sites where Mary and Joseph hid away from Herod, and understanding our rich history and how some things were stolen from us. There were so many things that I don't think I have enough time to talk about all of the great things that I experienced, but I do want to rest on this. I want to sit on this. For me, what I came away from Egypt is my love for God. and my understanding that he has been with us in all from the very beginning, even before what we think, and that he is continuously speaking through us and drawing us in, whether it's through hieroglyphics or through the Bible or through different words. I felt so renewed spiritually, and that was the best thing ever.
Wow. Miss Maya, would you agree with her? Tell us about your experience as well on this trip.
I absolutely agree. It was a life-changing experience for me. You know, I was a student of Dr. Mafico. I graduated in 2011 from ITC, and I saw periodically, we're Facebook friends, and I would see his pilgrimages, and I'd always say casually, I'm going to go one day, I'm going to go one day. And after COVID hit, I decided that, you know, life is too short to keep procrastinating. So I promised myself the next time that I saw a trip go by that I would attend. And I'm very, very happy that I did, because like Daryl said, Egypt was a very spiritual place. It's somewhere where I'm a person, I have a deep love of learning. I'm a very curious individual. So it piqued so many things in me just to see the history of a people and just to see ancient people who are brown like me, and the art and the architecture and the parallels to the Bible and things that predated even our faith, that we know that God is, it's real when it says there's nothing new under the sun. I was able to rest. I didn't even realize how busy I was as a person, and sailing on the Nile and just laying on that top deck to me for 3 days was a bit of heaven, and seeing the parallels in the Bible. And I love the fact that Dr. Mafico encouraged us to know each other and to build community while we were there, because I came with someone and it was very easy to click off and just talk to the person you're with. But he encouraged us, say, hey, talk to other people and learn other people. So we became a family there. And it was just a beautiful experience.
Wow. Well, I tell you, Dr. Mafico, talk about your putting the itinerary together. How long was the trip? How many days and nights? And, you know, what inspired you? Because there's so much to see. And tell us, where did you visit? You know, was it, you know, just a particular area? Or did you go to several areas along the Nile River? Just give us a little understanding of the itinerary, please.
The itinerary was 10 days, and we used to go for 2 weeks, but because of the cost now, many do 7 days, 8 days, because we want to put in the rest aspect in it and the bonding part of it in it. We now go for only 10 days, and those 2 days we put them in the middle there to rest. And normally our travels have to stop in the middle of the afternoons, that people have time to enjoy the cruise and to enjoy the deck. That is what we have now enforced on the itinerary, that there should be always after lunch, we should be driving home. We normally stay in 5-star hotels, 4-star hotels. So they have facilities we should utilize because we paid for them. So my trips are partly to see. Another aspect is to learn about oneself and about spirituality and about God. The third one is to rest completely. It is a one-on-one with God. So that is the 3 aspects of the trip: see, learn, rest, enjoy life while you are still here. So that is the itinerary. It was arranged. First, we wanted to see Cairo. So we saw the Pyramid of Giza. And then we were able to see the Sphinx. And that is a very amazing thing, because it was a piece of rock. But they were able to cut it into the shape of a lion and a human being. We talk about seraphim and teraphim. Egypt has a lot of them. Look so everywhere. they believed in those. So we sing about them in the Bible, not knowing that it started in Egypt. There's this phoenix right there. A piece of rock, it was just a small hill, and they shaped it into such a mammoth human being and it's quite huge. Yes. After that, we took a plane, we flew to Luxor, and we now are in the ship or a boat, big one, for 3 days. The main thing we're doing is to see too many temples in Luxor, Karnak, and so many places. We wanted to see these temples and listen to what their significance was. And we realized, of course, I had realized long before, that monotheism started in Egypt. Even the idea of creating out of nothing, it was in Egypt. So, and another aspect was to see that most of the people who were so great were black in color. Even knowing that Mark, who wrote the first gospel, was completely black, and it's undeniable. The pictures are there, the history there. We found the more and the more we learned, we found we became more and more part of the Bible, and no more just guessing that we saw ourselves in the Bible. Wow. So this I find we need to do more. So we will be going back after a year. Next year we are going to Greece. Why Greece? Because the Greeks also, like the Egyptians, were in these gods as a serious religion. And the main of their philosophy about religion led to the justice, which we talk about as democracy. Mm-hmm. It didn't start from God coming down. It started from there trying to understand God through these images which are there. So we are going there next year, and we'll take a cruise to Turkey to see, because we're tracing Pauline Jennings.
Well, I guess I better start saving my pennies and setting up my GoFundMe. Folks ask for things worse than going to Greece, so I have no shame. That is amazing. So, Sister Violet, what was the most memorable part of the trip for you? What just really stood out in your spirit that you have not forgotten about?
You know, when I went to Aswan, we visited the temple, the Philae Temple. Yes. And I had a very profound spiritual experience there. A very profound spiritual experience. I guess in church terms, I felt like I felt the Holy Spirit there. And it was so profound that I talked about it with the tour guide and a couple of other people for a few days because I was very moved by it. And it piqued my curiosity in studying of the place and researching. And I just felt a kindredness there in Aswan among the Nubian people and walking in that place. I felt like it was holy ground. Wow.
I remember that. And I too remember a peacefulness there. And a sense of security, that you felt like you belonged, that you were a part of that. Dr. Darrell, tell us about your favorite moment or favorite place that you witnessed on this trip.
I think my favorite moment was unlearning my religiosity, so to speak.
Let me say that's such an ITC phrase. I'm an ITC grad ×2. That is such an ITC. I love it.
Yeah.
I have to bring sounds ITC like the first day in Dr. Mafico's class or Dr. Randall Bailey's class or somebody, Yeah.
Yes. You have to if you were sitting under Dr. Mafico or Dr. Thomas and Dr. Bennett, all of these people, they will tear it apart. They will tear it apart. But the amazing thing was, so I am very much stomped in thinking that I know what I know and you can't change my mind. I know it. Right. And so there was a time in ITC, and I'm getting to where you're asking, where Dr. Bennett started talking about the Bible and how it's interpreted, and the how it is such an Europeanistic way of thinking, and how it's taught. And I was fighting for my life, Pastor Skip. I was fighting for my religion. I was fighting for what I believe. I was just I thought I was fighting for Jesus. I was fighting. And when I got to Egypt, and I saw the proof in the writing, the proof on the walls, and you're like, how can I fight? You know how the Bible say, why are you kicking against the prick? You know what I'm saying? And that was my moment where I said, I need to let go of the things that I have thought I was taught for so many years, and be willing to receive. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to be swayed by every wind and doctrine, right? But what I am saying is understanding that we as Africans have a history steeped in God and who he is and who we are to him. And we need to understand our history to be teachers, to be the givers of the gospel, right? To be preachers and teachers. If we don't understand our history and who we are, then we cannot teach and we cannot preach God without that. And so for me, that was the most profound. Now I'm doing more, as Violet says, doing more research, trying to find research in a different perspective as opposed to that which has always been out there. And it was huge because my religion, and one of the things I've learned is not to deify the Bible, recognizing that that God is just God, and we have to learn from him. So I'm hoping for an Enoch moment where I'm learning directly from God, where I can do great things for him, not great things of what people tell me I can do, but what God has put in my spirit. And that's how pyramids are formed, when we hear from God.
Yeah, I love it. We did not, on my first trip to Egypt, we did not do a 3-day cruise. We did, the wonderful commercial dinner cruise down the Nile, where you have lots of food and music and dancing. But interesting, the hotel I stayed in was on the Nile River, and you could step out on the balcony and look at the Nile. And I did that every night, just in total amazement. I did not know there was a God. I knew there was a God because it was evident, and it seemed like everything that I read, had studied, had understood about the importance of it kind of came into being. And so that was a kind of a life-changing moment for me. So let's talk about for a moment the camel ride. Did y'all get hoisted up on a camel? Let me find this picture. I think I have of Bishop Brown and Dr. Louise Baker Brown. I was not fond of that camel. I'm gonna be honest with you. Something about having to lean forward and then hold on and get hoisted up, it just did something to me. But of course, you can't come to Egypt. You can't travel to Egypt and not get on the camel. That's an important part of it. Dr. Mafico, as you take groups, and as you say, you've done quite a number of groups. What delights you in the end when you take groups? Are there moments where you all have time to reflect, to gather? Did I hear that you all had to do a sermon there? Did I hear that? No, maybe I'm thinking about another trip. But were there spiritual gathering moments where you would collect and gather and talk about the experience going on each day?
Normally, our trips, we work in there what we call a debriefing.
A debriefing, okay.
Yes.
Right.
Where people reflect like we are reflecting here.
Yes.
And in the end, from the experience I've had, that was I was in Egypt from 1977. I've been going to Egypt from 1977. So I know much of Egypt and its inspirational places, moments. So I injected those into the discussion. And that blends with what people have felt when they were traveling. And so that gives it a deeper experience. In fact, I wanted to send you a picture of when we are studying the Bible to show you how a group of pastors I took really went into the Bible much on a deeper level than I was even anticipating, because they found they had to deconstruct. Some apologized for sermons they preached without knowledge, and how much they find they have to read and really understand before they stand before the people to talk. They thought just preaching any good word. Now they found that the word has to be relevant. So that became quite a new thing. So as we are going to Ghana next year, we have worked with those debriefings into the program, because we found guides can hijack a trip and make it their own, because they like to talk a lot. So now the program tells them when to shut up and let people go home. And the program also tells when people must expect a debriefing before dinner. So everything is now working so smoothly from now on that we won't have to worry about when do we meet. Are we not tired? We won't be tired this time. The Ghana one, no one will be tired. It will be smooth sailing, enjoyment, spiritual reflection, learning, acculturating. The meaning to know what Ghana means, what their food is like. It's so worked out. I went there before. Now I'm more excited going the second time. And we're even going to a seminary to interact with theologians at the Trinity United Seminary. So that's what we're doing.
Wow, that's wonderful. I went to Ghana this summer. I took my children with me and celebrated my 60th birthday there. And I wanted their first trip to Africa to be in Ghana. For me, that seemed to be the perfect starting point. And it was very life-changing and transformational for them. Let's talk a little bit about the food. Now, how did you do with the food? And would you talk about that? I think I put up a picture of the food and fellowship. But tell us a little bit, if you will, about your food experiences in Egypt and the various places that you all visited.
All I could remember is lamb. It was. It's like it's sitting in my mind. It's taking up the space in my mind. It was delicious. I think everywhere we went, the food was just, it was different. Similar things, but cooked in a different way. Right. And so you had to get accustomed to the flavors, so forth and so forth. But it was rich. It was beautiful. Listen, I was full. I never went hungry. I'll let you know that much. But it was a great eating experience.
Yeah. And that's a part of it. Right. That's a part of the cultural immersion, being able to eat the food and understand the meaning. Sister Violet, tell us about your eating experience.
I have not had red meat since I was 24 years old, and I'm 47, and I ate like 2 trays of lamb. I paid for it. I paid for it, but it was so good. So good. I had never tasted meat like that ever. It was that delicious, and I love hummus, and because I love Mediterranean food, so I really enjoyed the when it was safe for us to eat. Of course, I enjoyed the fruits and vegetables. I really love them.
So, isn't it amazing that Cairo is modern? When I say amazing, there are, I don't know whether they're still there, but there was a McDonald's and a Kentucky Fried Chicken in Cairo where you could sit in the restaurant and look out the window and see the pyramids. I just thought that was just the strangest thing, you know, that the commercialism of American life and food and culture is very much a part. Is it still the same that way? Did you all see that as well?
I saw
Yeah.
You saw that?
Yeah. It's amazing. I think what stood out to us is you saw that, not Apple, but like the Google and the just very much American spaces that sit in there. And you're like, these people are, or organizations are all over the world. But one of the things we did not get to stop at the McDonald's or the KFC. They said, you're not coming to Egypt to eat there. Dr. Mafico had us on a very good regimen of visiting different places.
Sure.
However, we were having a conversation about just the difference in the meats.
Okay.
And how it's how meats are raised, animals, I should say, are raised, that they are not raised with a lot of steroids and artificial foods and stuff like that. So even if you went to McDonald's and KFC and places like that, you would still have a different eating experience than you do in America because of how they farm their animals.
Yeah. Dr. Mafico, talk a little bit about the experience at the Cairo Museum and what that meant, because I think I was just blown away, you know, by the things that I viewed and even the understanding of those artifacts that were taken from Egypt and placed in other museums. And I understand that some museums have started to return some things back, but talk about that experience, if you will, taking your group to the museum to view some of the great artifacts of Egypt.
What we found was that we needed at least a full day in the museum because it's a huge museum, and they are now building, as you may know, a new museum where they are going to bring all that into the humongous museum they are building and inaugurating soon. So it is the museum, you could see everything you want to see along the Nile within that museum. The gods, Tutankhamun and Amenhotep, how they embalmed the people. And when you listen carefully to how they embalmed, you'll find it's similar to what we read in the New Testament as well, the embalming. So, and Joseph was embalmed in Egypt. And so it was the museum was quite interesting. We didn't stay long. I think we spent an hour and a half because we had other places to go. But even that introductory visit was so rich, and I think Violet and Daryl could talk more about it because it was their first time. For me, as I say, I've been there, I don't know how many times.
Right. How did you enjoy the museum experience, even though it was brief? But tell us about your museum experience.
I liked it so much, I end up getting lost from the group because I start wandering around. I got scared, I got left. But I loved it. It was just so much to see. Like Dr. Mafico said, we stayed there like an hour and a half, but we saw so much. And I took a lot of pictures, and I think the most inspiring thing for me is the color of the ancient Egyptians, that you see Black people at the beginning of civilization. And I think that's important for Americans to see in general, because I think a lot of times we're very ignorant of the history of Black people, like we fell out of the sky as slaves or something. So when you see those things and you see the ancient imprint on religion, not just Judaism and Christianity, but world religion at large, and see that people like you started that imprint, to me, that was powerful. I probably took 400 pictures in Egypt because I was so in awe of the things that I saw.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Dr. Darrell? I'm certain you enjoyed that museum experience as well.
Absolutely. And as Violet was talking, the words that came to my mind was how great we are, how great of a people we are, right? And to be able to walk through that museum and see the jewelry, if you remember, Violet, that we made, and you know what I mean, and the mummies and the crowns and just every little aspect of it. It is one of those moments that it's so much that I can't think of one thing except maybe jewelry. And I'm not a jewelry person, so I don't know why it's stuck in my head, but it's there. It's just being able to have an opportunity to see our history in that space. And I think the most important thing, and I'm going to kind of reiterate what Violet already said, is that it is so important with the way the world is whitewashing African history, whether it's African American or just African history. It is very important that we, one, have a space where we continue our historical or keep our historical knowledge. Two, be able to teach and be receptive of that historical knowledge. And then three, share it with the world, right? Because if we don't do that, we are at risk as a people. And we must realize that the purpose behind those museums, it's not a house for old things. It's a space for us to know who we are and be the same magnificent people that we were meant to be.
And I think that's the whole beauty of the trip, is to discover the richness of our history and our culture and of our people. And to know that our story did not begin with the enslavement of our people, but our story began centuries before. And to be able to tie in and to trace and to study passages of scripture, in the biblical text to help to illuminate, that is a marvelous experience. Well, I tell you, you have whet my appetite again. I'm scratching my bald head trying to figure out how can I do Greece and Ghana in the same year with Dr. Mafico. He knows I'm just a colored Methodist Episcopal Church preacher. So I'll have to figure that out. But I do look forward to going on one of his trips as well. Say something by way of closing statement. Say something that would encourage somebody who is wavering. Somebody who said, I don't know what I want to travel to Egypt. I don't know what I want to travel to Africa. A preacher, I think every preacher ought to go at least once, to Africa. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Darrell, then Sister Violet, and then Dr. Mafico. I'll have you close us out with your final words and thoughts. But, encourage somebody that they ought to explore something beyond what they know. And to rebuild their thinking. So Dr. Darrell, I'm going to start with you, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, if not you, then who? Who's responsible? Who's accountable? Who will teach the younger people? Who will help us grow? Who will help us learn? If it's not you, then who? It is our responsibility to gain the knowledge necessary to accurately teach a nation of the greatness of who we are. So please come on out.
Thank you. Sister Violet.
Being a member of a people whose history has been totally taken away, and we are always in constant search of who we are. When you have the opportunity to know better, do better. Egypt, like every other place in the world, do you want to take someone else's word for everything that you learn? So if you have the opportunity to learn more and to expand your knowledge, to gain more wisdom and understanding of your life and of the past and of the present. I think you have to take that responsibility, like Daryl says, take that responsibility and just do better in life, trying to know more. And if it's not you, who?
Dr. Mafico.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Skip Mason, for accepting God's commission to interview people and unravel very important information that you disseminate to the community, which would otherwise be unknown. I appreciate you personally because you are an intelligent, renewing, and innovative pastor. You took West Mitchell at a time when its obituary was being written, but you have turned it around and made it exemplary in the church resurrection. I personally joined the West Mitchell because every Sunday is differently refreshing. You always bring something new, which is innovative, and which makes every Sunday experience to be different. Because you take pilgrimages, you exhibit a refreshed mind and an energetic persona that is apparent in your personality and in church administration as a whole. I want to thank you also for interviewing me and my two friends and Egypt pilgrimage participants, Ms. Violet Maya and Dr. Daryl Enlai Fang. We have had a good time reporting about the importance of Egypt pilgrimage, how it connected us with God, although we visited places which other people may call pagan temples, exhibiting pagan religions. But it is there while we're taking a pilgrimage that God touched us, and most all of us returned feeling refreshed and spiritually renewed. In conclusion, let me say this. To those who think that they cannot afford a pilgrimage, where there is a will, there is a way. And because you have no money, you may be surprised that if you really pray and think about it and make your birthdays and pastoral appreciations geared to a pilgrimage, you can afford one in 2 or 3 years, and the energy continues to drive you for many more years to come. The cost of a boring routine on your health and emotions and on your ministry and personal relationships is so devastatingly high that by the time you realize it, irreparable damage to your health, mind, and everything has been done. If you think you cannot take a pilgrimage because you are too busy doing God's work, listen to what Jesus said to his disciples. In Mark 6:30 to 32, they were bringing in reports of evangelism, which was so successful that many were coming and many were going. But as they reported to Jesus of this mega ministry forming, Jesus said, let us go to a deserted place on the other side of the lake of Gennesaret and rest a while. They went away and they rested, which means that Jesus was exhibiting that even church can be left for a while for the pastor to go and found renewal. I have taken pilgrimages every year since 1977, I remain feeling young at heart and in body and energy, even though years may be piling. Pilgrimages keep me feeling young, happy, renewed, and hopeful for the future. I'm enjoying paradise on this side of the grave while I'm still in the land of the living. You too can. And if you don't know how, it is time to check with the Mafico Leadership Renewal Institute. Dr. Mason, thank you so much for this interview. May God continue to bless you and your ministry.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mafico. I appreciate those beautiful words, Dr. Darrell Ann Lay Fang and Dr. Violet Maya. Thank you for sharing with us, inciting us and encouraging us to take pilgrimages to Africa. I found a few more photos that I got to put up of my trip to Egypt. It was life-changing. And I encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities to go to Ghana, to go to Egypt and any other place that you might find interesting because it will expand and open up your knowledge. I'm so grateful to you for joining me for this Sunday afternoon's conversation. Again, I thank Bishop K. Lawson Adjei, Dr. Thembe Mafico, and the wonderful guests. Next month, we will celebrate the 152nd anniversary of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. And I look forward to a special show with regards to that. And also, I look forward to having Dr. Paul L. Brown, the Dean of the Phillips School of Theology, to come and to tell us about the Pastors Conference, 2023 Pastors Conference, and we'll get an overview of that conference. Thank you so much for joining me on today. May God continue to bless you and keep you. Again, next Sunday, 6 o'clock. The CIT Tech Talk, I'll be a part of it, and so many other wonderful people will be too, under the leadership of Dr. Duhart. I look forward to seeing you go in love and go in peace and go with the joy of Jesus in your heart. Thank you. God bless.